And they didn't have cell service where they were. So they were able to reach out to me with the Garmin device. I knew exactly where they were, and I was able to go pick them up off the trail. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So a while back I did a video on my initial impressions of this little guy right here. It's the Garmin inReach Mini 2. I went over my initial impressions, how to set it up, and some of the planned pricing and so forth. So if you have any questions about that, check out the other video that we did previously and you'll learn more about it. But today I wanted to do a follow-up video on what my experience has been using this device for the last 6 months. Now, I have taken it on a 26-day backpacking trip on the John Muir Trail. I've taken it on a few off-roading overland excursions in my tracker, just as a factor of safety and a safety measure. I've lent it to some friends. They were going on a bike packing trip from Colorado to Utah, and I was able to track their location and support them along the way by using this device. And now I've taken it south of the border down here to Mexico. So I wanted to let you guys know what my experience has been, how it works down here in Mexico, all the things. And now that I have some real life experience with this device, I can better give you guys some pros and cons of what this device offers. So come on along and see how this device right here did on the infamous John Muir Trail over 26 days.
I've taken the Garmin inReach Mini 2 on a backpacking trip. And not just any backpacking trip, I took it on the John Muir Trail. With side trips and so forth, I've done 300 miles, and I've been on the trail for 26 days in a row, testing this little baby right here. And I have to say the initial impression, if I would have done this review on day 1 or day 2, I would have not had a very good review of it. I was very frustrated with the functionality of it. It seemed like a lot of the items that you wanted to look at were hidden in all these weird menus. It was just kind of frustrating to use. I will say now, 26 days in, I've gotten much more used to the functionality. I've gotten used to how it works, how it's set up. I will say one of the frustrations is that this device by itself, you can do a lot of things. The other part of it is there is an app that you have to download on your phone. And through that interface, you can get to some other aspects of this device. But my frustration is that you can't do everything from just one item. You can do a lot of things from here, you can do a lot of things from your phone, but you can't do everything on just one or the other. There's always kind of a weird compromise. You know, one of the frustrations with that is that the phone has a limited battery life. And if I have to keep on checking the phone, that might eventually wear down the battery. Now, the other thing I will mention is the messaging on this, because that's kind of an important feature on these devices. I can message people with cell phones or emails. Through the phone, it's fantastic. It's just like typing a text message. You type it up, send it, it then relays it to the Garmin device via Bluetooth, and then that sends it up to the satellite system, and then it can get to wherever you were trying to send it. Now, on the phone, super easy, just like typing a text message. On this, if you had to send a message from this device right here, it is extremely tedious and frustrating. You have the alphabet, and then you just have up and down keys, which are these two right here. And you have to cycle through the entire alphabet to get each letter. Again, you don't want to be wordy on that. You're trying to get a very simple message. If you don't have your phone, for some reason your phone is broken, whatever, and you had to rely on this for messaging, you can do it, but it's going to take about 5 minutes to write a message. But again, it's such a small device that you can't expect it to have a touch screen. You can't expect it to have a bunch of buttons. It just has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons, 6 buttons with the on-off on top. So it is one of those things where this is not made to write messages, but you can do it in an emergency situation. Now, one of the things I really do like about this device is the size of it. This thing is tiny. It's the smallest and lightest on the market, and you pay for it though. This thing is not cheap. This thing is $400 retail. So let's talk about the battery life real quick. This thing is phenomenal on the battery life. I was amazed. At the standard definition, the lower definition, it only used about 2 or 3% of the battery. That's amazing. That was using it for 12 to 16 hours in a day. At high definition, it only used about 8 to 10% each day. And again, that's using it 12 hours or so. At that point, I went 13 days without a recharge, and that was huge. To go 13 days on the trail without having to worry about recharging this, that is a very, very big thing for hikers and people who don't have access to a battery or power source. So that was very, very important for me hiking. Now, I will say, in how it relates to you guys, if you're in a vehicle, that's not that big a deal. You're not too concerned about the battery life because you have your cigarette lighter, you have USB outlets that you can charge devices, so you're not as concerned about the battery life. But I will say you could easily just charge this thing up and not worry about it again. So this device is great, especially if you want to let people know exactly where you're at and you want to track your progress on a road trip, on a hike, on a bike ride, whatever. So as long as you have this on, it lets them know exactly where you're at. But if you're just looking at it for an emergency situation, you're not worried about updating family and friends about your location and so forth, but you just want it for if something drastic, crazy happens, break down, you break a leg, whatever, you hit that button and you know help is coming. There are other devices that might make more sense. This one, again, tiny, great battery life, has a lot of things going for it, but you know, with the monthly fee, things start adding up. And so in the end, I'm not sure it's completely worth it. If you're in a vehicle, if you have your own power source, you might have better options out there. For a hiker or someone who really likes to go exploring, it's fantastic. It's great. To give a comparison, a friend of mine on the JMT here, he had a Spot device. And I will say Spot devices are another very, very popular device. He had a lot of issues with that device. One, it really sucked on battery life. He was charging that thing every single day, whereas I didn't have to charge this thing for the first 13 days on trail. Then he also had a bunch of glitchy things happening with it. And so in the communication, it's on a different satellite system than this one. This is on the Iridium satellite system, and I think the Spot has their own satellite system. And it just didn't seem like it was as good. His messages were very slow going up and down, whereas mine was very, very quick in the same situation. You know, the Spot, again, very popular, has very similar plans as the Garmin, but in the end, I feel like this is a better device than the Spot. Now, there are other devices out there that may work better for you guys, and I'll look a little bit more into that and try to get some information for the end of this video, so I might be able to give you guys the right direction to go.
Now, since getting off the trail, I've had another opportunity to use this device. I mentioned in the intro about lending it to some friends so they could use it on a bike packing trip. They were going to go from Telluride, Colorado to Moab, Utah on a week-long bike packing trip. And I lent them the device, and with that, I was able to track where they were all along that route. And it proved invaluable because along their journey, they ran into some really bad weather. It was raining, sleeting, 40-degree temperatures. They were freezing their butts off, and they didn't have cell service where they were. So they were able to reach out to me with the Garmin device. I knew exactly where they were, and I was able to go pick them up off the trail. And I brought them some hot cocoa and hot tea, just to be nice. And I was able to grab them and bring them home. Now, was it life-threatening? Probably not, but it was very nice to be able to offer that service and be able to see where they were and go pick them up as needed. So now I'm down here in Baja, Mexico, and I wanted to see how well the inReach would actually work down here. So far, so good. All I had to do was turn on the device while I was still in cell coverage, connect it to my phone, and I was able to download the maps for the local area in all of Mexico very easily. Now, so far I've used this device on several hikes down here, as well as going out on my paddleboard. We even had a close call where I didn't actually use the device, but I may have had to. So we were out paddling, one of the remote islands right out there actually, and the wind kicked up, it got really, really wavy, and we were struggling to get back. Now, luckily, some folks on a Sea-Doo came by. They rescued us. They actually hooked up our paddle boards, and we were able to tow us into back onto the beach that we were at. But had they not been there, it may have been essential to hit the SOS and get help, because we weren't going to get back to shore at that point. And from what I've read, the Iridium satellite system that the inReach uses is extremely reliable, and it's worldwide coverage. So any place you're gonna go, you're gonna be covered by this little baby. Now, I did mention that I was going to look up some other options that may work out better for all of you out there. And what I came across was personal locator beacons, or PLBs. Now, they're similar to the Garmin inReach satellite communicator with some key differences. First off, there are no subscription fees. Once you buy the PLB, it's yours and you can always use it, and there is no ongoing cost. So that's a huge, huge bonus in my opinion. There is a downside though. It is not a satellite communicator, meaning it's a one-way communication. So once you hit that SOS button on the side of it, they're sending for help. And you can't cancel that SOS. So if you kind of freak out, hit it, and then you're like, oh, you know, I don't actually need help, I was able to find my way out. Too late. There's no way to cancel that request. And so it really is for those dire, dire emergencies where it is life-threatening and you have no other options. So in the case of my friends borrowing the device for their mountain biking trip, it wouldn't have worked in that situation because it wasn't life-threatening for them. They just couldn't send a message to me saying, hey, we need help, can you come pick us up? No, they either had to finish it and be miserable, or again, it wasn't life-threatening enough that they could hit that SOS on a personal locator beacon. So that is a downside of those kind of devices. So here's my advice. If you want a device that you can communicate with others, have others track your whereabouts, I would definitely recommend this device. If you're only looking for those life-threatening situations where in a dire situation you absolutely need help, I think a personal locator beacon, or PLB, would be fine for you. Now, we will have another video out on this channel about the comparison between PLBs and some other satellite devices. So go ahead and check out that video if you're interested in finding out more about that. So all of you out there, which route do you think you would take? Would you go with a satellite communicator or maybe the PLB? What did you think of the inReach Mini 2? Have you used it? Let us know in the comments below. Give us your input, give us your thought. We'd love to hear from you. If you got anything out of today's video, go ahead and share it with friends, subscribe to the channel, and give us a big thumbs up. And until next time, we'll see you guys all down the road. So long. See little people down there.